no longer a question of whether or if Raila Amolo Odinga is in the race for presidency in 2022. He has hinted almost directly now, and you can look for the signs everywhere. Yesterday in Kakamega, he more or less said he was running, seeking confirmation from the crowd, but basically is running. And not just what he has said, including his demeanor. Everybody will now agree that Raila Odinga moves around very presidential. From the day he launched the Azimio in Nakuru, looking very presidential, talking very presidential, followed with a meeting in Homa Bay a week or so later, and yesterday in Kakamega. From his meeting, diplomats, and only recently, meeting with the president from Estonia, the lady who's dressing should invite other Kenyan ladies, our Kenyan ladies, to know how it means to be decent and simple. From all these things, being received at the railway station, kind of supervising what's going on around, the security detail, and everything about him, Raila is all but president. So it's no longer a question of whether he's running or not. So I'm not even going to discuss about whether Raila will run or not. It's only to confirm this morning that 2022 will have two men on the ballot, William Samoei Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga. There's also the question of who the running mate will be. I'm not even going to discuss that. I'm not going to look at the challenges William Samoei Ruto is going to have in terms of a running mate whom he must choose from Mount Kenya. But that this choice of Mount Kenya will be a problem to him, because then it perpetuates the narrative, the dangerous narrative, I should say, that Kikuyu in, Kalenjin in, later, Kalenjin, Kikuyu. That is quite a challenge. Even for Raila Odinga, choosing a running mate may bring the challenge of having to take the Uhuru choice for his deputy. That's not what I'm talking about today. Neither am I talking about the many things, the qualities of the leadership in Raila and Ruto, the challenges that come with being Ruto, the challenges that Raila is going to face, and there are many. That's not what I'm discussing today. Today, I discuss the pawns of the Kenyan political chessboard. I am looking at the flower girls. To say what I'm saying is to imply and to mean that there are only two presidential candidates, Raila Amolo Odinga, William Samoei Ruto. The rest are flower girls. To call them flower girls is not to say they will not have their day. The flower girl of today is a bride of the next wedding. But for 2022, I can see on these two gentlemen. Now, let me look at the flower girls. You go to Western Province or former Western region, Moses Masika Wetangula, Mukisa Kitui, Wycliffe Ambeza Oparanya, not Moses Masika have said, but Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi. These are the flower girls of 2022. You go to to Central or the mountain region, Justin Muturi, very good friend, very good gentleman, is a flower girl. Jimmy Wanjigi, a wonderful flower girl. Now, these pawns, and they are from all over the country, including Kalonzo Musyoka and many others, wonderful flower girls. And you know, without flower girls, a wedding cannot be flowery. Let me talk about why they are pawns in the political chessboard. But before I say so, let me divide them into two categories. There will be those who are willing and knowing that they are being used. They are part of the game. But there are those who are responding to a subtle game. They don't even know that they are pawns. They are being used in the wider chessboard game that is Kenyan politics for 2022. So there are those who know and willing. There are those who do not even know. Of course, there will be those who know but think they are smart. Those who say, these guys think they are using me. Hey, wait and see. So these flower girls fall in those categories. Now, is it a gamble Uhuru and Raila will be taking to create some of these people? Before I answer that, I want you to go back to 1992. In 1992, multipartyism having been introduced for the first time since independence. Of course, there had been the independence multi-party elections, and multipartyism died soon after when those party leaders that were opposing KANU crossed over the floor and joined government. Ronald Ngala, Daniel Moi, Martin Shkuku, and the rest of these people. So there was no multipartyism in Kenya. Kenya was a de facto one-party state until the law was now officially changed and Kenya under Section 2A became a one-party state officially. So when the one-party state status was removed and Section 2A was repealed, Ford, that carried the dreams and aspirations of Kenyans during the second liberation, headed by none other than the doyen of politics in this country, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Everybody knew, including me, that Jaramogi was going to be the president of Kenya. And there were people with Jaramogi, wonderful people. Matiba, the late Muliro, many other people, Martin Shkuku, Rubia, Orengo, and many other people, and the young thugs, the Orengos, the Manyaras, the Muites, the Raila, there were many, Okombaki, they were tough people. So powerful was this opposition, nobody expected them to miss the game, to miss the ball. So it was obvious they were going to support Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And the victory was theirs for the taking. But wait a minute. Did that happen? No. I hold the view, I could be wrong, that Moi created the division in the opposition. He brought Kibaki. Before that, they created Matiba. I've said repeatedly that if you want to know Matiba was created, when he came from treatment from London and landed at the Jomo Kenyatta, the reception he got was stage managed by the government and the intelligence. Soon they discovered they had created a monster who could devour them, who was going to win the elections. So they had to create other people. But before realizing Matiba was a monster, they had destroyed Jaramogi using Matiba and the role of Shikuku, called to State House, to eat ugali and disaga, Maluya delicacy. Those things were there. So they were created. But he became a monster. So you had now to check the monster. So when I say these things now happening now, it's not far-fetched. It does happen in politics. So the pawns of 2022 are already being created, including those who think they are running, but they are not running. Let me just take a few of them. Why do you think the system will want to create Kalonzo? Why do you think the system will want Mudavadi? Because the way this thing is being played, and you saw Senator Wambua, you saw Senator Malala urging on Kalonzo and Mudavadi respectively, that if you go to Raila, you are on your own. This is being stage managed. I may not agree with Itumbi in terms of the direct relationship, role of the State House. But it makes sense that this is being staged. Why? Because if Mudavadi went to Raila, the Luyas will vote for Ruto in good numbers. If Kalonzo went to Raila, the Kambas will vote for Ruto in big numbers. And that is dangerous to Uhuru and Raila. So you are creating Mudavadi and Kalonzo to run. as a team or individually. If they run as a team, they will force a runoff. If they run individually, they will get useless votes. And that's why I've been advising, and I'm going to do a video tomorrow to advise my fellows from Western Mudavadi. Open your eyes. Now, let's go to the mountain. The Justin Mutuni card, people say it is deliberate. People say he has fallen out with Uhuru. If it is true, and he thinks he can win the presidency, he's an unknowing pawn. He's a pawn who doesn't know he's a pawn. Because if he succeeds to divide the mountain vote by rallying Mount Kenya East, he will have done exactly what Uhuru and Raila would want. So to the extent that he's doing that, then he's a pawn. Let's go to Jimmy Wanjigi. I said he's an elephant in the room. There are two things, and there are two. This is a gamble in two ways about Jimmy Wanjigi. One, he could get votes, not in sufficient numbers, but in numbers to distort the William Ruto picture on the mountain, which is what Raila needs. But supposing he manages to create a movement in the mountain and gets all the Kikuyu votes, is that a gamble worth taking? Yes, and for two reasons. One, if he gets those votes, it means you have reduced William Ruto to number 3, relegate him to number 3, which is good for Raila and Uhuru. But how about those votes? Will they take Jimmy Wanjigi to State House? The answer is certainly no. The worst those votes can do is to force a runoff. Now, is a runoff a worthy gamble for Raila and Uhuru? Certainly. Why? With Ruto in number 3, Jimmy Wanjigi facing Raila, Raila will have him for breakfast. Why? It's very simple. Because Jimmy Wanjigi as a person does not have the sufficient political networks to get support from across the country to add on the Kikuyu votes. You see it. He doesn't have. And the remaining time is not sufficient for him to create those networks coming from the business world and not the political world. Others have done it in shorter time because they have been politicians all their life. They have made political friends across the country. For him to make that in the remaining time is a pipe dream. So he may win to force a runoff. But in that runoff, he will not create sufficient networks to beat Raila in the runoff. But more seriously, why Jimmy Wanjigi will be breakfast for Raila Odinga is in that runoff, where will the hustlers vote? Especially the Kalenjin. They will be so annoyed with the people from the mountain. They will be so annoyed with this kind of betrayal that there's only one way to show the anger. Only one way to show the anger. And to direct that anger at that object. Because Uhuru will not be on the ballot. The only person they will direct their anger against will then be Jimmy Wanjigi. For that reason, as a pawn, as a flower girl, Jimmy Wanjigi will be whitewashed by Raila Odinga in a runoff by 10 o'clock, like some people say. So yes, if you are a politician today, if you are gunning for the presidency, ask yourself, are you a flower girl? I know there is what I call mental unfaithfulness. There are people who see things, but they refuse to accept, as my young man told me, that there are people who see things, the reality, but they run away from it, like lunatics. Because a lunatic is a person who is out of step with the reality. He can call himself Uhuru Kenyatta when he's not. He can even kagua gadi heshima. So some politicians are in that state. So if you can see. Today, if you are a politician running for president in this country, ask yourself, to what extent are you not a flower girl? Ask yourself, could you be an unwilling and unknowing pawn in the game? There will be many people who will join your campaign and even fund it. Please, be aware some of the people cheering you on, willing to support you, mobilizing resources for you, could have been people who have been sent to make you a good pawn. And therefore, for the flower girls and the pawns of the 2022 game, open your eyes. It's good to know you're a flower girl. Nothing wrong with it.